Yeah, that one.
Johnny and Luke, Brandon, they're all nuts. Lopez were all crazy. I used to watch them. They're about friends. Play basketball, they fight each other.
You know, Johnny was one of the best athletes ever.
He
If he'd had his head screwed on right, he could have played division. His basketball, he could take a basketball like this one. He was still good.
got huge fan, huge team.
Johnny was a good man. He was he could do anything. Baseball, basketball.
You ready?
I think we're good.
Call this meeting to order. This meeting is being held for a public hearing for the Clarksburg Sanitary Board Arlington Sewer Extension. The project proposes to extend sanitary sewer service from the city of Clarksburg to Arlington via a conventional gravity sewer system. To present the information for the sewer extension project to the residents of the Arlington area, the meeting will include discussions of the project details such as funding, improvement alternatives considered, construction impacts, environmental impacts, and to take any other questions relating to the project. I'll now turn the project over to Thrasher Engineering.
Afternoon, everyone. My name is Anthony with Thrasher, and with me is Eric Gerard from Thrasher. Just wanted to hold a meeting to get everyone here to get comments on the upcoming sewer extension project to the Arlington area. As of right now, we have some funding already committed for the project from U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, West Virginia Infrastructure and Jobs Development Council, and we're awaiting some approval from West Virginia DEP with the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. This is a project overview. I know there's been a need for sewer service in the area for a while. This project, DEP approached City of Clarksburg and asked if they would take a look at extending conventional sewer to the area. City of Clarksburg agreed to put in for the application, to get the project moving. And, the project, they asked Roger to put together an engineering report. We submitted that to the Infrastructure and Jobs Development Council. They reviewed it, they saw it was a fundable project, and they awarded funds for that project. Need for project, I know most of the area is probably on septic system. There's limited available data at the county that I can pull. This project will only serve the Arlington area. Army Corps had asked that the city apply for funds to serve the other areas in the future, like Gore and Donald and Glen Falls areas. For this project, the engineer considered 3 alternatives when working with the city. The first was a conventional gravity system with a tie-in to Clarksburg. This option would use 3 lift stations to get the sewer from Arlington to Clarksburg. It would also allow sewer from Glen Falls to be sent to those lift stations to be pushed to Clarksburg in the future. Alternative number 2 was a low pressure force main system, which was the original system that was designed by a different engineering firm. And that's the one that Army Corps was working off of to begin with. Clarksburg did not want to maintain that type of system. It's not similar to anything else they own or operate. And the third alternative was do nothing, which is no work gets done. In our report to infrastructure, we recommended pursuing alternative 1. That is something Clarksburg would maintain and operate, and we could extend sewer to the community.
The main purpose for this meeting is if anybody has any questions regarding these alternatives and the selection of the main alternative. So keep that in mind so that at the end when you have questions, we'd be glad to go over any of that.
Yeah. Project details, community impacts, it'll improve the quality of the West Fork in that area, West Fork River. Some downsides are if this project goes all the way through design, gets to construction, there'd be obviously be noise and dust and road work. We reached out to Army Corps to see if their money can pay for hooking up the sewer to everyone's homes. We haven't heard back yet. When we do, we'll let the city know and we'll put the information out there. Proposed project schedule. Typical projects, we have design and permitting for about 4 months. Then we have to wait for all of our documents to be reviewed and approved and answer any comments in the meantime if there were any. That would take about 3 to 4 months. We would then put the project out and start construction, and that process could take anywhere from 12 months to 15 months. So start to finish, we're looking at about 20 months after we get funding.
When does it start again?
It would start after, that whole process would start after we receive funding. After this meeting concludes and we get public comment, get some answers to you guys, we'll take the minutes from this meeting, we'll send that to DEP, and they'll be able to put those in our planning document that we submitted and make that an approvable document, and we can work on getting funds to fund the project.
Yeah, the process, right now, we've got, like Anthony said, there's some funding that's already been committed, but part of the piece that we need is the $1.5 debt forgiveness through the Clean Water SRF program. That's through DEP. There's a process that you have to go through to get that money, starting with the development facility plan, having meetings such as this to discuss the alternatives, and then we actually have to complete the design. If there's any easements that will have to be obtained at that point. It's usually a 6-month process just to do all of that because there's review periods. So picking a date, an actual start date is tough, but the answer is as soon as possible. But we just have to get through that. As the process moves along, we will be able to dial that date in and get more information. So once we have the design complete and we're getting permits and we're looking at the easement process, then we'll actually be able to be better at picking dates.
So is there an idea of how much it's gonna cost per person, roughly, ballpark?
I don't remember exactly offhand, I think it was around 42. I think it was about $42 a person.
Average.
Average.
Yeah, that's based on average bill. Is they bill on water usage?
They do bill.
Yes, your bill will be based on water usage, but an average bill will be around from $2 based on the current.
I have a question that may seem a little odd, but not really, because a lot of people ask, so I'm speaking for a few people that aren't here, I guess.
Okay.
Now, are they, like, I live on Arlington Drive, so they're gonna have a gravity feed, right? Flow rather.
Yeah.
So, when my septic would come, well, I have a septic tank, but when my drain comes out into that, they're gonna tap before the septic tank, I guess, and then have it go out to the drain, right?
Yeah.
But is that gonna be in the back or the front, on the main part of Arlington?
It would really depend during design, when we went out and looked at it, whether we're coming out the front or the back. We would try to keep it, if everyone's septic systems are along the back part of the property, then we try to stay back.
Sewer's gotta go to the low point, so the goal would be to try to pick everybody up on gravity that we can. And until we're actually in the design phase, specific details are tough to pinpoint. We haven't actually started drawings. We're mostly just kind of talking about this being a conventional gravity system instead of a pressurized system today, but then later on down the road, we'll go to actually provide more detail because there's input that we do need, as far as the best places to connect, locations of your septic tanks, everything. But today, we're not able to answer specific questions on property. It's mostly going to be geared around that we're evaluating, putting in a conventional gravity system versus doing the pressurized system.
And just add to that, what about if somebody has some apple trees or something like that? They'd like to know roughly, well, how's the pipe gonna go? You're gonna take the trees out and all that, what's gonna happen with something like that? Can they go around it?
That's not something guaranteed. We try to minimize those types of impacts. But again, at this time, the exact alignment's not known, so we don't know. We do try to minimize that better. If it could be designed and installed in a manner to avoid taking out trees or anything like that, because that's a cost of the project too.
Yeah.
So but that'll definitely be something that will come up during the design phase of the project.
Are they gonna leave the septic tanks that was already there at the houses to stay on course probably, or are they gonna take them out?
That's, we have to get an easement on to get on your property and connect the line. Some property owners want them out, some of them left in.
You would have to coordinate that with the contractor though. Technically, they're not allowed to use the DP money to abandon your septic tanks that are there. But one option is to work with the contractor that's there, because everybody's gonna have one that needs to be decommissioned. But they would have to be pumped, filled, or have a hole knock in them, crushed.
So you couldn't leave the old, because you're saying you'd have to get rid of it, so.
Yeah, you're not allowed to flow you're not gonna be allowed to flow your sewer in a conventional system through your septic tank. You'll have to disconnect from your septic tank and then tie your service into the new gravity system.
But, so some of the people, they might wanna save the money rather than saying, take it out, just leave it there.
You can leave it, you just have to fill it. It can't be a tank anymore, so you have to knock a hole in the bottom up and fill it up with sand and gravel and leave it.
Okay, I see what you're saying. All right.
A lot of people can't remove them because of where they're at. It could have impacted the foundation of the home. It could be near a swimming pool for some reason. But a lot of people can't even remove them, so there are methods of leaving them in place.
Oh, yeah.
They just can't be considered a tank anymore. They can't hold water, so they want a hole knocked in them.
Oh, yeah.
And you want to fill them up so that they don't collapse, leave a hole in your yard someday.
Yeah, so you're saying the only thing y'all gonna do is just run the line down, the main line, and we're responsible from there on out? From the house, from the line out to our house, is that what you're saying?
You were talking about that with the Army Corps.
Yeah, so we put out a question to Army Corps, waiting on an answer back. We asked them, can we use some of your money, Army Corps money, to connect the homes to the new trunk line that would be installed?
The problem is, some people in that area can't even afford it.
Yeah.
So,
So our goal would be using grant money to do those hookups.
That's the goal, but as we're looking at it right now, the new system would be installed and a clean out would be put at the property line and the pipe to make the tie. And that is placed at the best ability to be as close to the connection as possible for the customer.
So there was a contract.
I know, some people got, 300 feet to go. I heard
Yeah.
something talking about that.
That's why they're trying to see if they can use the Army Corps money to offset that cost, but right now, that's not for sure yet.
So the work is that we'll be doing the lines, is this a subcontractor?
If this project will be designed and put out to bid, and it'll be awarded to the lowest qualified bidder.
So who's doing the subcontracting work?
We don't know yet. The city will advertise it for bids once the design's complete.
If people in the community have a question, who is the point of contact?
Do you guys prefer them to go through the city, or do you want to reach out to us specifically?
You would be better answered than I would.
Yeah.
You can call me, Anthony Ergo Thrasher. I've put my contact information on the sign-in sheet, but my phone number at the office is 304-848-6496.
Okay.
So what happens if somebody says, I don't want to go that route, I want to use my septic tank? Just saying.
Public service.
The DEP requires a tie-in if you're within reasonable distance, and they consider reasonable distance to be 300 feet. The preference is to tie-in. If there are specific issues, just bring those up, but for the most part, you're requiring to tie in to the sanitary sewer. It's not the same as water because it addresses environmental concerns along with public service.
Can I ask a question? I'm not from Arlington, I'm from Gore.
Okay.
I'd like to have some kind of specific time where we're going to get it, because we were part of the co-op, just like everybody else was. And we're down the line, I'm fourth a mile from where you dump this stuff. I mean, it's crazy. You know, it's crazy. How long are we talking? We're talking about septics that probably don't have septic tanks.
Gotcha.
And we live probably at less than a fourth of a mile from the city. We've had city water for almost 70 years, but never any sewer.
Gotcha. Right now, those go past the bus garage down there.
Right. So we're stuck in the middle between us, our Dalma, Pepsi across the street.
I want to add on that, because you mentioned that, the Army Corps asked the city to request the funds. I mean, our experience with them was they have a work cases every year you have to submit, so have the other communities been submitted?
No, they're not. After this project is completed, we
After
Yeah.
30, 40 years we've been doing this. Call me, we've all been working together. We met with Thrasher 25 years ago.
I guess, another question would be to the Sanitary Board, are you going to submit with the Army Corps of Engineers for additional funds?
Yeah, because they take forever to get back with us, didn't they?
It's a yearly process with everything.
We're aware of how time consuming that can be. I mean,
And you'll be this close, and then all of a sudden it drops out, the bottom drops out. Yeah, that's how bad this has been. I mean, it's been a long time, I've been to a lot of meetings, and we've been fighting this for a long time, it's time. It's time. I mean, this is, it's ridiculous that we don't have it.
I don't think, I can't speak for the following phases at this moment. I'd be glad to tell you, yes, but we can't really speak to that yet. Because a lot of it, like I said, there's funding available every year. We're pursuing other funding other than the Army Corps. The Army Corps money is committed. And the goal is to build it out in phases, because the cost of trying to do it all at one time, the grant funding stuff is not available to do that. And the goal here is to pursue grant funding to keep the cost per customer.
Didn't we get money though from the federal government to subsidize some of these projects like this for the sanitary board and all that stuff, so we can have cleaner water, all that kind of thing?
Well, part of the money that we applied for is
Is that money?
That clean water
The
SRF,
county got
is.
it, the city got it. I mean, there were several, organizations, several people who got some of that money. It was federal money to help to review this stuff.
I think that might be the ARP funds.
Yeah, the ARP.
What?
That might be, you might be referring to the ARP funds, the American Rescue Plan Act funds.
It could be. I mean, I just know I heard about it through, through TV, those kind of things, that the city received money, the county did. The county never seems to have any eagerness to helping us for some reason, I've asked them over there, I've approached them many, many times about the projects. They say they're trying, but, I mean, we're not that many people. I understand that, but we still count too, it's important that we have this too. People's septic systems are going, they're old, they're falling apart. And it takes $10,000 to replace a new one.
Yeah.
And we don't have the fields we need, to actually do it properly. Nobody's got that kind of property. So, I guess I want some answer.
The process is moving forward. You can't stand here and guarantee it, but I know the process is moving forward. It's coming out and it's being built out as money's available to do it. We can't speak to what the ARPA money is utilized for. That money, there's so much out there that's going on. It wasn't as much money as everybody thinks. It goes fast. Like I said, this part here is what, $3.5 million?
Just round about, yeah.
For this project. So to do what the goal is right now, at least, we're looking at this being almost all grant funded.
Right.
That's important. That's important to everybody, all the existing customers of the city and the new customers, to try to keep rates down. Because, this is being phased out and pursued as quickly as possible.
Right.
None of us like this to drag out. And we definitely, we're not in your shoes specifically, waiting on it for 20, 30 years, but we definitely understand how the process gets dragged out. And we're right there trying to push it forward.
Well, that's all right.
We just don't have any solid answers for you at this
Yeah, it
time.
would be nice if I could go back to everybody and say, well, we're gonna get it in 2 years or, and you're looking at me like I'm half crazy,
Well, I just can't tell you that. It's not that you're crazy. I mean, you never know how the money comes up, and there's different money every year that's available that might lead to some opportunity, but I know right now they've exhausted every avenue that they can to try to put together a
Because
fundable package.
co-op pretty much had everything pretty much secure.
That was in 2019.
Yeah, see, we had all the money really that could go through and start one phases.
And just curious, has the city of Clarksburg extended sewer out to a community in the past, outside the city corporate limits?
You guys,
Did Clydesdale get something or something?
I mean, the city serves 9 satellites.
No, I mean extend, actually become a customer of the city of Clarksburg.
Did we, as far as the city, do that?
Yeah.
Not to my knowledge. No, we,
I think lots is handled through the public service districts that are.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, and the reason I'm asking that is we're gonna have questions, people in the community have questions. That they're used to coming to the co-op, we don't answer those questions anymore, and I just, like tap fee, is there a tap fee? Is there a deposit?
I don't know, I don't know if that's been discussed yet
Yeah, no.
on how that's being handled for the customers.
When we're not at that point of the process just yet.
There'll be, I know you're not going to take information back to one. There'll be additional meetings to have discussions once this continues on a little bit farther.
And the goal of this project is to extend service to Arlington, but there's a lift station there at the bottom of the board towards the wastewater plant that's getting upgraded so it can take flows to bring the other systems
So
in.
what is that? It does have something on the sign that we're working on the sides of the road.
I don't think that's our project out there currently.
It's yours?
No, not, well, there's a water line project going on in Hempstead right now.
Because see, we're not connected to Epsilon. Why no one decided not to connect us is beyond me, because it's just on the other side of the road.
I'm not sure.
Me either. That was long, probably before my time. But
Environmental. For that garbage.
Oh. As I said, two other notes on the agenda here, the environmental assessment. Most of this project, we would aim to construct roadways. If there's anything where we have to go along the backside of anyone's property to get sewer service to them, we'd look at doing that. But we try to mitigate as much as we could. We don't want to tear down anyone's trees as much as we can. And obviously we have to work out easements to do that work. And as far as permits go, this project would require a stormwater construction permit, which is applied for DEP, to make sure we don't get sediment in the receiving streams. We would have to get a permit through the DOH to work within their roads, and a permit with the health department. So we go through their review before it could be an approvable project.
That'll be reviewed that'll be reviewed when DEP reviews the plans and specs. So, like I said, it's a process. There's a handful of permits. Most of the process tries to go hand in hand. Right now we're in the planning phase, getting ready to roll into the design phase. Once we get about 30 to 50% through design, we should have a lot more answers on the actual layout of the project. And then there'll be other project team discussions down the road for any accounting questions or anything like that.
so what's really the next step? You're just waiting on this money or?
Well, yeah, the money it's there. But you can't get a commitment until you get through, you have to have your plans and specs approved by DEP. So the next step through this process is we're drafting a facility plan, which is a planning document. They get submitted to DEP, and they do a review and approval of it. And then that gets turned into design plans and specifications. Once you have that process, then you're working on your easement acquisition, if there's any easements that we need to get. And we have to have 100% of easements for DEP to give us the commitment of funds. So right now it's a funding recommendation. They have the funds. The goal is to get to that commitment, because once we have that commitment, then we can do the project.
Now, what if people don't want you to commit to their property or something? What kind of problems does it create? I mean, does everybody have to? I personally don't care. I want it.
That question comes up every meeting.
Well,
I'm just
honestly,
kidding.
because I've been in enough meetings where I see a lot of them saying, well, I don't.
No, and it happens. First and foremost, everything is exhaustive to try to either obtain the easements or shift alignment so that
Right.
nothing else has to happen. It depends on where it's at. I mean, if it's somebody that's at the beginning of the project, there's no other option. You know, we have to get into some tougher negotiation situations, but the goal is to not do that because everybody ends up being part of this community.
Right.
We don't want that.
So you're looking about 2 or 3 years down the road?
No, for Arlington,
Yeah.
no. I would expect probably a year and a half at the most. You're probably looking at 9 months to go big and then probably a year worth of construction, like Anthony said. The Army Corps money, it's committed. That's a big thing. That's dealing with the federal government's the more complicated part of it. Because there's a lot of components in this administrative.
See, the way I understand it, the co-op had all the money to do the project that they had. Am I right, Paul?
Although we had everything but the 25% match, we couldn't get a loan from it.
Right, yeah. So, but it shouldn't take y'all that long, because you got a little more pull than we did.
Well, funding wise, everything's lining up. It's just a matter of going through the process to get the commitment of the last piece, which is the 1.5 million DEP money that's been applied for. So it's in line. It's just a matter of going through the hoops to get them to commit it. Yeah, I don't think at this point it's a concern. It's not going to happen. It's just walking through that process.
One of the things, the question I've been asked to ask you is, are we going to be a customer of the city of Clarksburg, or will annexation become into the conversation at some point?
Customers. Yeah, typically that would be handled with customers. They're not to that point yet, and they're just getting the board's discussions, the city's discussions. once that information becomes available, we'll get it out to you. Because we're going to modify the tariff, just out of city limits and all that.
Hopefully we didn't say anything that didn't make any sense today. I mean, sometimes I get stuck in the wrong mode and provide more confusion than answers.
Well, how long do you think before you have any more meetings? And what steps you gotta go through before you let us know what's going on?
Well, the first thing I'll tell you is I don't care if it's next week, if you have a question, call in.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, the goal, everybody should be up to date on everything. If you have questions or you feel like you need to know something, I mean, definitely reach out. I would expect normally, it's hard to have this meeting because we don't know the details that you want, but it's required by DEP to take this step. But once we have design plans, we'll probably look at having another public meeting, because I always find it advantageous at that point, you're about 50% complete, to show you guys what it looks like so that nobody's surprised or that we don't get 100% done and there's a problem that you all know about that we don't. So and at that point, we'll have any easements and stuff identified that we might be looking at. And it's a good time to reach out to everybody for that.
When would you expect that meeting to occur?
We're probably 4 or 5 months.
After we get funding, yes, secured. But we'd probably hold it where we have a good 50% design plan set done.
But in the meantime, if there's any questions, just reach out. If there's some more information that we're able to provide.
So when you're working on them, can you not start working on the other phases of it? Because, I mean, it seems like it takes a while to get to that process. I mean, where you're at now.
It does take a while to get there. The Sanitary Board would want to move that direction. We'd have to have that conversation. I wouldn't assume it would start until this project's even further along or in construction.
Well, I know like the infrastructure council, authorized a project design loan for this. Could they not submit for the other 3 communities to begin with? Because that's a process too, to get that.
I won't speak for the city, but I don't know if they want to take out a design loan to complete that. I would see them going after grant funding to fund extensions of the other areas.
I mean, if that's are you saying then you will seek grant funds for that? Because we may be able to help do that. Because we have congressional support for this project. If you look at the Clean Water State Revolving Fund priority list, these 4 communities are number 25 in the state of West Virginia out of 176 projects. So I think there should be some support for a project design.
I don't believe that there's any doubt that the city is going to try to pursue Dalmont and Gore. It's just, we have to systematically work through this one right now. They're making provisions, as Anthony just spoke, with a modification to the lift station over Gore to be in a position to take your septage. So, obviously, they're thinking ahead now. So they're making provisions for those.
I guess that's what I want to hear. Are we still?
Yes, it's not going to be abandoned.
There's an existing lift station there at the bottom of Gore that serves the school and the bus depot. We're going to upgrade that station with this project. So those sewer services that are extended up through Gore and up to Dalmont, you can take that flow up to the plant for treatment.
Because we're right there. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah.
And there's also going to be a lift station at the end of Arlington to pick up.
There will. So its primary first service will be to serve Arlington for right now, but it'll be sized that it can take on Glen Falls in the future.
We're trying to be as proactive as we possibly can in regards to, looking further down the road. But as Anthony has told you, sometimes these projects take years in the making. And it's one of those deals where we're trying to take advantage of what we've got. But we're ever mindful of the fact that we want to add those other communities as well. But, you know, this first step had to happen, and we just don't have the answers for you in regards to the costs, the tap fees, some of those things, because we're not at that point where we can even make, you all know what the cost of goods is today and what it might be 30 days from now for that same piece of pipe. So it'd be almost impossible for us to give you a fee now that would be, you know, accurate 6 to 8 months from now. So, you know, those will come as the project rolls out and it gets a little more involved, if that makes sense to you. Does everybody have Anthony's phone number? Okay. If not, we're going to give it to you again. But please, you know, if you have any questions, and you're going to have some, reach out to him. You know, he'll try to calm your fears. But
I'm gonna put some of my cards over there too for anybody. I'm down the hall from Anthony, so you would definitely be a hold of one of us.
do we have any questions, anybody?
You don't have one of those forever hold buttons, do you?
Huh?
You don't have one of those forever hold buttons.
That thing rings to my cell phone.
Us too.
If I don't answer your phone, you just call from a different one.
If there's no further official questions, I'll close the public hearing. We are closed. No sewage for you.